Hello friends, I'm Sumit. This is my YouTube channel Massive. First of all, wish you all best wishes for the Navratri. May Goddess shows us the right path. And 3-4 days ago, when I was I spent some time watching some YouTube videos, and 3-4 days ago I got to know about fractional derivative. In my graduation days, I've never heard about this fractional derivative. I'm not a major in mathematics, so possibly we did not the curriculum did not have the scope to deal with fractional derivative. So in the morning when I was in the park, I was having a discussion with my friend who has done major in mathematics. So he suggested few things about we talked about fractional derivative, and suddenly one point came where he said that function is differentiable at its endpoint, at the endpoints of a domain on which the function is defined. And where I was very certain that no, function is not differentiable at the endpoints. And for this whole video is all about. I'm going to make this video as short as relevant as possible. So I still remember when I was in my first semester, when I was pursuing my masters. So Associate Professor Abhijit Banerjee, PhD from Yale, US, he asked this question in the whole class that is function differentiable at endpoints of a domain? And there were some people were from IIT also, because students from IITs after pursuing their BTech also come to DSE to pursue career in economics, and they were quite brilliant. I was not a very good student in my master's program, I honestly admit that. But that day, particularly, I'm so glad that day I could muster the courage to raise my finger and told sir that sir, function is not differentiable. He said, why? I said, okay, function has to be continuous. So now that friend shared me a couple of pics on WhatsApp, justifying that no, function is differentiable. I don't know. I mean, he told me the name of the author. I'm not supposed to tell you the name of the author, but the author is wrong. Function is not differentiable at the endpoints of a domain. And you can watch this video. Suppose the function is x square. Okay, you can take any function, x square or x cube or x plus 1, whatever. Okay, ideally it should be not a linear function to make things more interesting. So I deliberately chosen it as a it's a non-linear function. So suppose y is equal to x square. So and the domain is 0 to 5. Okay. Now I deliberately kept it as closed set for the reason you will get to know in few minutes to come. So had I kept it as 0 open set, had I kept it as 0 to 5 open set, okay, in that case function would have been defined only for values greater than x, greater than 0 or less than 5. But I deliberately chosen it as 0 to 5 closed set. So function is defined for even for x equal to 0 or equal to 5 also, and of course for the values lying in between. Now, so suppose if I take a value of x equal to 1, the output will be 1. If I take value of 2, it will be 4. If I take 1.5, it will be 2.25. If I take 3, it will be 9. If I take 4, it will be 16. You can keep going, right? How does the function look? Well, the function looks like this, okay? It's like a parabola, but since the function is defined only for values greater than or equal to 0, so I'm not going to draw this whole graph, okay? Because it starts from here only. It starts getting defined only from point 0 onwards, x value 0 onwards. Okay. Now it's not. Now the interesting point comes. What is slope, brother? Slope is nothing but change in y by change in x, right? So suppose x at x0, y will also be equal to 0, right? If you 0 to the power 2 is 0 only, right? Now 1, it will be 1, fine. At 2, it will be 4 actually, right? Now listen carefully. You see, if I increase the value of x by 1, say from 1, then the value increases from 1 to 4. So the change in y upon change in x will be 4 minus 1 upon 2 minus 1, which is 3. So this is change in y by change in x. This is the gradient. But this is the gradient. This is the change we are seeing in y when we change the unit of x by 1 unit. But when we say that find me the slope of this curve at one point, when you calculate, so derivative of x square is what? Derivative of x square is 2x. But I'm calculating the slope at 1, right? Because from this point of like exactly I'm calculating the slope at x equal to 1. If I put the value of 1 here, it will be 2, whereas I'm getting the slope of 4 minus 1 upon 2 minus 1, which is 3. But it is not matching with 2. Why? It won't match. Why? Because it's a continuous curve, na? I told you in the beginning that I'm not going to keep it as a linear function. I deliberately kept it as quadratic function. Why? Because function is changing continuously. What do I mean by that exactly? See, suppose if you change the unit of x by a very short amount, y is going to witness a change. Right? So it's basically, slope will differ at every point of x. It's basically continuously smooth, right? It has a curve continuously, right? So we should be very cautious when we change the unit of x. If we want to calculate the slope, we see basically slope will differ. So if I basically had I increased value of 1 to 1.5, in that case it would have been 2.25 minus 1. The slope would the change in y upon change in x would have been 2.25 minus 1 upon 1.5 minus 1, which is nothing but 1.25 upon 0.5. So which is nothing but 125 by 5. Sorry. Yeah. Right. Right. So in that case, it would have been 125 by 50, right? So 12.5 by 5. So it would have been 5 to the 10, 2, 2.5. See, earlier the slope was 3, now the slope is 2.5. Not slope, the change in y upon change in x. Okay. So basically, change in y upon change in x will depend by what amount you change the magnitude of x in either of the direction. Earlier, I changed the unit of x by 1 unit from 1 to 2. The change in y upon change in x was coming out to be 3. When I change the unit of 1 to 1.5, when I change the unit of x, when I change the value of x from 1 to 1.5, the change in y upon change in x is coming out to be 2.5. If I reduce the change in x, the slope will decrease, and it is as I keep reducing the change in the unit of x, that change in y upon change in x will become very close to the derivative, which is 2x, right? So why? And the reason is that because at every point the function is taking a curve. At every point we are witnessing a constant. So basically, it's not like it's a straight line, right? At straight line the slope is same. Change in y by change in x will be constant in straight line. Okay, but when it's a curve, at every point the slope is going to be different. So in a way, the most accurate slope will be to measure when x is going to witness a very minute change, like very minute change. So that change in x should be very close to 0, but not exactly 0. So that's why, this is the reason why we say when we did our when we studied calculus in our 11th or 12th standard, that if you want to calculate a slope at particular point of a curve, the line which is at which this curve is tangent at that point, the slope of that line will be equal to slope at this point of the curve, because they are tangent now. See, this line, the slope of this line is constant. It's going to be constant even at this value of x or this value of x, either of the value of x. But curve is tangent to this line only at this point, right? So the slope of this line is equal to slope of this curve at this value of x, which is 1. Okay. So in fact, I tell you why the derivative of x square is 2x, because as I just told you that we should change the value of x very minutely to calculate the accurate or closest slope, to basically find the accurate slope at some point of a curve, right? We need to change the value of x very minutely, like it should be the change should be very close to 0. So if you suppose so what will be the change? So basically slope is nothing but change in y upon change in x, right? So if suppose x square, so suppose y is equal to x square, then change in y will be what? x raised to the power change in x square minus like whole square minus square, and change in x is nothing but uh, x plus change in x minus x, which is nothing but change in x only, right? If you take a square, it will be x square plus 2x change in x plus change in x square minus x square upon change in x. Now, if you so basically this can be cancelled out, and so it will be uh, hmm. 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 Correct. So it will be what? 2x change in x plus change in x square upon change in x. If I take common change in x, then it will be 2x plus change in x upon change in x. So if you cancel this out, then it will be 2x plus change in x, and change in x should be very close to 0. So the slope will be 2x plus 0, because it's certainly greater than 0 or less than 0, but very close to 0. So that's why derivative will be 2x. Had you take if you had a function of say y raised to the power x, y is equal to x to the power n, then in that case the function would have been 2 x raised to the power n minus 1. I mean, you can calculate the same way. Now let me come to the point. Now you tell me, when we are interested in knowing the slope of the curve, function has to be continuous. इसमें तो कोई rocket science नहीं है ना. If suppose if function is not continuous, if I say function is, like suppose if the function is say यहाँ तक continuous था और उसके बाद वो say function is, say suppose this looks like this. So suppose function is giving 11 for all the values greater than or equal to 3. That's how the function is defined. In that case, the function is discontinuous at 3. So function is basically we cannot calculate the slope at x equal to 3. We cannot. Right? We cannot. And what is the reason for that? If you take a value, because you see, function is discontinuous, right? At x equal to 3. So if I take a value of, if I take a positive change, then the slope will be, change in y upon change in x will be different. Whereas I take, this is the reason. If I take change, if I reduce the value of x from 3 to say 2.9, in that case change in y upon change in x will be different. If I increase the x from say 3 to 3.1, in that case change in y upon change in x will be different. Both will not be same. But ideally change in y upon change in x should be same, because it's a change. It's not we are not mentioning whether it is an increasing change or decreasing change. Change in y upon change in x should be same whether you go right or to the left of value of x, right, or your independent variable. So that's why function is not differentiable when it is continuous. That's one thing. Now I'm saying that I started with this, making this video with this, that function cannot be differentiable at endpoints for the simple reason that function cannot be differentiable at. So suppose I told you that its domain is 0 to 5. So suppose this is this. Okay, 1 second. This parabola. 1 second. This is parabola only. So 5, 25. Okay, this is this. This is this. At 0 it is giving you 0, at 5 it is giving you 25. Suppose this is the function y is equal to x square. Now this is the endpoint and this is the endpoint. At this point you cannot see the change when you increase the value of x, say from 5 to 5.1, because function is not defined outside that. So you cannot see an increasing change. You cannot, basically your change in y upon change in x should be same if you go left or right. But in this case you cannot go right. For the same reason, by the same token, you cannot go left to this point, because function is not defined there. So change in y upon change in x should be same. The more close you stay from left of x or right of x, right? So x should be increased to calculate the slope at particular point. That slope, to calculate the slope at particular point for a curve, uh, the change in x should be very minute first, and second, you should be able to change the unit of x in both the directions. In this case, at the end points it is not possible. That's why function is not differentiable at uh, endpoints. So this was it. I'm working on fractional derivative. It may take some time. I don't know whether I would be able to even understand it properly or not. I watched one video. So few things went over my head, but I'm so adamant that if I spend some time, I would be able to understand that. So that's it. So that's it. Thank you so much for your time.